Hi, this is week 1 and we are on our 5th video in our series for this week. In this video I'm going to be looking at the problem of being nervous. Okay, many people consider presentations to be the most high pressure or one of the highest pressure situations you can be in. Because you are standing alone in front of an audience of people. You are not a native speaker of English. Some members of your audience may be native speakers of English. You are this level in the company. Maybe in the audience is your boss or your boss's boss or the CEO or some very important customers. So of course the situation is very high pressure and you may feel nervous. However, feeling nervous and especially showing nervousness can have a very negative impact on the success of your presentation. It can have a very negative impact on how people see your presentation, how much they like you, how much they trust you. If your presentation is very like this and you're speaking too fast and you're shaking and looking away, it's all going to go very, very badly. And it doesn't have to go badly as long as we do a few simple things. Okay, the first and one of the most important, of course, is we must prepare the presentation. Now, as I've said, I don't think you should be writing out the full script of your presentation. I don't think you should be doing that, okay? But you must prepare your presentation carefully. It's very common for somebody who's giving a 5-minute presentation to spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, 2 days, 3 days on preparation. Because if you only have a short time for preparation, you really want to make sure that you understand what is my message and how can I best give that message to the audience. This isn't about writing a script, but this is about thinking about the best way to give your message to the audience. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of skill. But if you do this, then the presentation itself will be very good and you won't need to be nervous about it. Similarly, a very important thing to do before you have a presentation in front of the real customers or the real CEO is to practice your presentation. Not just read it, not just make the presentation in PowerPoint, but to actually stand up and deliver the presentation as if you are delivering the real presentation. Okay? You can do that in an empty room, but make sure you do this. Okay? Book one empty meeting room in your company and make your presentation to an empty room. That's one way. Second way is to make the presentation to a video camera. This is very, very useful. It's something I still do now. I started this a couple of years ago, and the first couple of times I did it, I felt so stupid. I was like, and often I would stop, I made a mistake, stop, made a mistake, stop. 1 minute, no, I made a mistake, stop. 3 minutes, made a mistake, stop. But you can't stop during a real presentation, even if you make a mistake. So, one of the things you should do is to just try and get through your presentation in a high pressure situation like in front of a camera. And it's very, very useful. It's very, very useful even if you don't watch the video back again. However, of course, one of the things you can do is watch the video and see your own performance. But even just knowing that you're going to give a presentation and you can't stop and start again because you have this video working is just a very good way to practice. Okay, Then finally, the next form of practice that you can do is to ask your co-workers, your colleagues, your fellow students to come and watch your practice presentation. They sit as the audience and you give your presentation to the audience. Now this is useful for two main things. One, of course, is that you get feedback from these members of the audience. I didn't understand this. This wasn't clear. This was too long. I liked this. I liked this slide. So you get some information, you get some feedback, what worked and what didn't, so you can improve your presentation. The second reason this is very useful is that the most difficult part of a presentation for many people is the Q&A, the question and answer section at the end. Because you can prepare the main presentation and your slides, but you don't know what questions people are going to ask. You can imagine what questions people are going to ask and prepare answers. But if you have some co-workers or friends listening to your presentation, then you can also get some real questions from these co-workers, and you can try answering these questions on the spot. Okay, so that's two ways of dealing with nerves by just being very well prepared. Making a good presentation PowerPoint, which is very logical and clear, and then practicing delivering that PowerPoint presentation 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, many, many times until you know your material well. It's not memorization and it's not working from a script, but knowing what points you want to make in the presentation and having had some practice of doing so is very, very good for making you less nervous. Okay, now let's talk about before the presentation and in the presentation. Okay, in the presentation, before the presentation, I'm going to skip down here, okay. Just before you give your presentation, what I'd like you to do is to visualize success. By this, I mean that before you make your presentation, you imagine that you make a presentation and it's very good, it's very smooth. You imagine the audience smiling and nodding and understanding and agreeing, and maybe at the end, maybe they're clapping you, maybe they're applauding you. Okay? By visualizing yourself successfully giving the presentation and the audience liking your presentation, this is a good way to relax before the presentation and to enter the presentation with confidence. Okay, so before the presentation, we visualize success. Okay, now we're in the presentation. What are we going to do now? Well, there are 2 main things we need to think about. One is that we must control our breathing. When you're nervous, you forget to breathe. You keep on talking and your air is coming out, and there's less air in your lungs. You start to feel even more pressure, more nervous. Your voice gets smaller, you start to speak faster. It's hard for the audience to understand, and eventually you'll be unable to continue. And then you'll go and then you'll start again. It sounds terrible, okay? Relax and be aware of your breathing. If you feel yourself getting nervous, just stop, take a breath, okay? Generally, breathing in through the nose is good, and generally using your diaphragm. Nice lungfuls of air, give your point, and then breathe again. This also helps to keep the pace of your presentation down, keeps it nice and slow. Okay, so for example, in today's presentation I'll be talking about nervousness. I've divided my presentation into 4 main parts. My first part, I'm going to be talking about preparation. Okay? So, after each point, I'm making sure that I'm breathing nicely and well. It gives me a nice pause so I can think of my next thing to say, and it means that I'm not doing this terrible, nervous, too fast, too quiet, running out of breath type speaking. Okay? So that's very, very important for success. Okay, the other thing I'd like to talk about is body language. Now, if you're confident, then you will have good body language. But even if you're not confident, you can make yourself feel more confident by having good body language. It's actually kind of interactive, okay? Confidence, you have good body language. You have good body language, you feel more confident. So actually, you can make yourself confident even if you're nervous by making sure you have good body language. So when you get on the stage for your presentation, you want a nice, strong stance. So feet apart at about shoulder height. You are facing your audience, okay? Your body language is nice and open. Your hands are ready to do some gestures, but you are not moving around too much, you're not fidgeting, you're not looking down, and things like that, okay? Nice, strong, positive body language, and remembering to give eye contact to the members of your audience will help you to be less nervous. Okay, notice during even this video I made some mistakes. Okay, I said the wrong thing at some point and I have to backtrack or say it again. That's okay, okay? It's okay to make mistakes, you're only human, alright? Every sentence doesn't have to be perfect. This is why we don't need a script, okay? As long as we know what we're trying to say, and if we've practiced saying it, then if we slip up a couple of times or the grammar isn't perfect, it's really not important. Okay, as long as we're delivering our message. So even if you make some mistakes, it's important not to get more nervous. It's important to breathe. It's important to keep your strong body language. And you'll get through. Okay, thank you.